On the one hand, we're seeking to understand the level of dehumanization, of lies, of deceit, of propaganda against the Muslimin in one geographical space of Palestine. You know, when you think about dehumanization, you're dealing with layers and layers and layers and layers of stereotyping. And for us, it's a job of unpeeling those layers and layers and layers until we begin to see the human being in that frame. There's many contributors to the whole process of dehumanization. From state media, from teachers, from politicians, from people on the streets. Everyone has a role to play. And therefore for us as Muslims, we take a very, very noble responsibility towards, of course, our brothers and sisters in that landscape, but really for all people. So we will learn therefore about the negatives, about the deception and the deceit, about the lies. But also for us to learn about the profundity of and richness of a great history of Palestine. Why is that land so important for us? Why is it, for example, that we feel this sense of mobilizing, particularly now, because of what's happening in Gaza and Palestine? What is for some of us, it's like the center point of a lot of stuff, particularly Al-Aqsa Masjid. It's able to do that. How and why? What resonates with us? What connects with us when it comes to Islamic history of Palestine? So all of these things we will, inshallah, try and learn today. But I want to say something else, and that is a reminder that this is a course, and it's quite a lengthy course, and it will go through, inshallah, a lot of stuff, but it's likely that we will miss a lot of stuff. It's very difficult to encapsulate entire history of an entire people, entire landscape, only in the time that we have today. And even though you're thinking 9 to 6, but if you minus the breaks and everything, I don't think, I'm being optimistic and thinking we're going to cover everything today, but we will try our best, inshallah. And it's very likely that I haven't included many things. So when the slides were done the first time, there were like 65 slides. So I sent it to Rahim. And then I added, and it became 90 slides. And then when they were done, and it's done, you can't do anything, then there's other things I forgot to include. So you're always having this process of thinking what should be included. And so there are things that are not here, that should be here, I think, and I'll try and touch upon them, inshallah, in the course of today. And many, maybe other things as well. And we ask Allah for acceptance for all things. Allahumma ameen. So may Allah make this a beautiful moment for all of us, and a beautiful experience. And may we learn a lot, inshallah, today. The purpose of learning is to learn, to internalize, to encapsulate, and then to teach other people. So perhaps many of you are teachers, parents, guardians. Maybe you have a lot of people that you're responsible for. It's your job, therefore, to learn and then teach other people around you about the things that you learn, inshallah, today. So I want to begin, therefore, with those 5 things. The importance of gratitude, giving salam to each other, and then understanding the negatives of the level of deception and deceit and lies around this whole discourse and the people, and then to understand the importance of learning about why is the Quran, for example, why is so much of the Quran about history, about events of the past, about people of the past? How does that translate into how we understand the present? How does it make sense for us in terms of what we expect of the future? All of these things are processes. So once we understand the importance of what was, makes sense to us about understanding what is now and what could be, inshallah, for tomorrow. And then, of course, to have a great sense of hope-bearing. Remember that, the Muslims of Palestine, of Gaza, between, like they say, ahad al-husnayn, one of 2 good things. And the ulama, they say about, like, one of two good things is either victory or martyrdom. So of course, all of us are saddened by the level of destruction and murder, savage murder committed against the Muslimin of Gaza, Palestine. All of it, we see it every day. And we were talking about it on the way here in the car. That there is something like called an expectation about things that Allah says some people will do. وَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًا كَبِيرًا. They will express themselves with a profundity of arrogance and pride and creating of fasad and corruption on the earth. Allah says that's going to happen. They will do that. But we also have the point about Allah saying, وَلَا تَقُلْ لِمَنْ يَقْتُلْ. Allah says, don't say about the one who was killed in Allah's way, he's amwat, he's dead because he's alive. So we believe everyone who's been killed in Palestine is not actually dead, but in fact as a martyr. Why is it a sense of hope for us as Muslims? Because remember that when you have narratives in the Quran, again this is history, like the narrative that's repeated the most of Fir'aun and Musa. All of us know something about Fir'aun and Musa alayhi salam. But that's repeated the most. And so it's like in our time today, it's not just the protagonist and antagonist, Fir'aun and Musa and Fir'aun are out, but all of the actors around the whole scenario are also here. So you have, of course, in the Quran, Fir'aun, you have Harun as well. You have Musa and Harun, you have Fir'aun, you have Qarun. You know, you have magicians of Fir'aun. You have the mother of Musa. What amazing sense of bravery and patience and resilience in the mother of Musa. You have Musa, have Harun, Fir'aun, Qarun. You have Haman. Everyone's there in the landscape. But one thing to remember is this. There came a point of no return when Allah mentioned the magicians. Because these are like the media machinery around Fir'aun, magicians, and they're doing all this trickery and stuff in order to deceive the people and then prove the case for Fir'aun, to validate his existence. But when it came a point when they saw the miracles of Musa, Allah sent him Musa alayhi salam, and then they made prostration on the ground and they said, Amanna, we believe in the Lord of Musa and Harun, we believe in Allah. And Fir'aun says, how dare you believe without even asking me beforehand? And they say that, and he said, I will slaughter you, cut off your hands and feet and all of this. And they said, do whatever you wish to do. All you can do is the life of this world. That was a point of no return. There was no going back from that point onwards. And I think that what's happening today in our contemporary history are many of these points of no return. Not only in the sense of the mobilizing of the ummah, the efforts, the renewal of faith through something external to all of us, but also in terms of the level of deceit and deception. Whatever, if people weren't aware yesterday, then they're of course more aware today. And then number 4, the level of hope. You know, in the story of the boy and the king, maybe all of us have heard about the story of the boy and the king. It's a long hadith. Maybe I think it's the longest hadith. The Prophet told that story. And Surah Al-Buruj, in fact, is a surah that really condenses the events of the boy and the king. Surah Al-Buruj. And so in that story, by the end of it, when people, they believe in Allah, and the boy, he says, if you want to kill me, then take an arrow from the quiver and shoot the arrow and say, Bismillah Rabb hadal ghulam, in the name of Allah, the Lord of this boy. And when you shoot the arrow will hit, and it will hit me, and I will die. And all the people are there, whole scene, spectacle, images, everyone's there, whole village. And the king thought that if everybody is there, seeing the whole thing, and then the boy is killed, These two things out of the way. One, the human spectacle. Everyone is a witness. It's like shock and awe. Everyone can see. And number two, the main cause of the problem, the boy, is removed. How can there not be a victory in this for him? And one advisor comes along to the king, because all the people are saying now, Amanna, bi Rabbi hadha al-ghulam, we believe in the Lord of this boy. We believe the Lord of this boy. And the advisor comes and says, أَرَأَيْتَ مَا كُنْتَ تَحْذَرَ فَوَاللَّهِ قَدْ نَزَلَ بِكَ. Do you see the thing you were scared of in the beginning has now fallen on your head? The thing you were scared of in the beginning has now come to you. Meaning you were scared, people believing, and now they're believing. The fact that you're seeing some people embracing Islam, returning to Islam. In Lewisham Masjid, the Imam Shakil said it's 8 out of 10 people who are embracing Islam because of something happening in Palestine. So Allah is, Inna Rabbaka Alimun Hakim, your Lord is all-knowing, your Lord is all-wise. Allah knows the best of what happens, and we'll discuss this inshallah in a second. And so very quickly then, things we will inshallah cover. So, okay. Here we are. So you can see therefore there's 15 main areas. We will try and cover inshallah today. We're going to begin with the first one here called understanding spaces and their spiritual significance. I think if we understand this, it will make a very big difference to our sense of being, about our faith, about Islam, about how we carry ourselves in this life. So I won't go through all of them here. Maybe I should, in fact. So number 2, therefore, Prophet Musa and Al-Quds, and then Prophet Yusha bin Nun and Al-Quds, and then Prophet Dawood and Sulaiman alayhi salam, and then the family of Imran and the role and purpose of Isa alayhi salam. The number 6, Masjid al-Aqsa and its virtues. Number 7, Christianity and Jerusalem, how that plays out into Islam. Number 8, conquest of Al-Quds by Ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu. Number 9, Al-Andalus as the first site of crusading. Number 10, the Crusades, Nuruddin, Salahuddin, and the reconquest. 11, building projects under Ottomani Khilafah, particularly Suleiman Qanuni. And number 12, the expulsion and dehumanization of the Palestinians, contemporary now and also before. Number 13, positive treatment of the Jews under Islam. And number 14, Jerusalem in the end of time. Number 15, what we can do now. So 15 core areas for us to consider, inshallah, in this course today. We will start immediately on the first one. Here we are. So it's called transitioning landscapes and sites of meaning. This is one of my favorite ayat, in fact, in the Quran. I love this a lot. And this, I think, is so profound for us in terms of understanding ourselves, people around us, and how we make sense of experiential meaning. So Allah in the Quran says concerning Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam, Allah says, وَهُشَّرَ سُلَيْمَانَ جُنُودُهُ مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ وَالطَّيْرِ فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ. Allah says, interesting, Allah uses the word hushara, meaning Allah says, gathered before Sulaiman were his army of humans and jinn and birds, and they're all arranged, فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ. Twice in the Quran you have that expression, يُوزَعُونَ. And by the way, they're both in Surah An-Naml. This is Surah An-Naml in the Quran. One at the end of Surah An-Naml, Allah says, فَهُمْ يُوزَعُونَ. Allah says, they're all assembled before Allah yawm al-qiyamah, day of judgment. But this is not about qiyamah. This is a human playing field. Allah says, gathered before Sulaiman, army of humans and jinn and birds, and they're all arranged. They're all assembled. So what comes to your mind? You think of power. You think of might. You think of like control. Sulaiman is in control. His army is there. Humans are there. Birds are there. Everyone's there. Everything's powerful. And notice Allah says, وَحُشَرَ, meaning not hashara, hushara, meaning it was done for, it was gathered for him. It was arranged. It means everything's in place. But it's like, do we always stay in the same space all the time? We don't. Sometimes, in fact, you're in places you feel confident, brave, you feel in control, you feel powerful. Like it's your place, it's your home, you feel happy to be there. Your land. But you don't always stay in that same place all the time. You don't. So Allah says, next ayah, حَتَّى إِذَا أَتَوْا عَلَى وَادِ النَّمْلِ, until they came to the valley of the ants. The chapter is called Surah An-Naml, chapter of the ants. And Allah here speaks about the ants. So now they're coming to a valley. A valley is a downward space. Right? So previous ayah, control, might. Next ayah, they come to the valley of the ants, a downward space. And ants, maybe millions of ants are all in this valley. And Allah says, قَالَتْ نَمْلَةٌ, the female queen ant spoke and says, يَا أَيُّهَا النَّمْلُ أُدْخُلُوا مَسَاكِنَكُمْ. She spoke and says, "O ants, enter your homes." You don't want Suleiman and his army to crush you, and they won't even know because they can't see you. You're too small. We're too small to be seen. So from a place of power, a place of control, to a place of weakness, where others are not in control. The moving, transitioning of space means that connects to our experiential meaning. That means that he's making sense of his own being through moving through space. So you have this whole discourse in spiritual identities of spaces of here, there, and elsewhere. I don't think this is a space of here. This is a place of here, definitely, there, but then a third space of familiarity. That's the most important space for us. The space of familiarity. How? Well then, when he heard the ant speaking and saying, "Oh ants," he could of course had a miracle of Allah, he could hear the ant speaking. What does he say? He says, قَالَ رَبِّي أَوْزِعْنِي, my Lord, inspire me to thank you for what you blessed me and my parents with. وَأَنَا أَعْمَلَ صَالِحًا تَرْضَاهُ, and for me to do good deeds that you're pleased with. وَأَدْخِلْنِي بِرَحْمَتِكَ, and enter me by your mercy amongst your pious servants. So he makes his prayer to Allah. How do we make sense of our bearings in life? You going from, a stage of being, let's say, adolescent to becoming an adult, a non-parent to becoming a parent. You growing in age, you changing. How do you make sense of that experience? And Allah is telling us here, well, there's a way of making sense of it. Because Suleiman, as a king prophet who had power and everything in control, and then moves to a new place, and there are other people in the place, and there's ants, how we make sense of it is referring everything back to his creator. And that's really the way of a Muslim. Take everything back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's his dua. It's his desperation. It's his humility. My Lord, inspire me, awzi'ni, to thank you what you blessed me and my parents with. And then to do good deeds that you're pleased, not to do any good deeds, but ones that you're pleased with. And then enter me, not because it's me, Suleiman, the prophet. No. Enter me by your mercy. Amongst who? Other prophets? Well, amongst your pious servants, including prophets and other people as well. All of these things are a reflection of his deep sense of humility. So I wanted to begin with that because moving through places connect to that sense of meaning. And new places require new observations for us. So if you carry on, therefore, here we are. This is the next part of that verse, ayah 19. Suleiman alayhi salam in a place of elsewhere. Suleiman smiled, laughing at his speech, saying, "My Lord, arouse me to be thankful for your favor, to remain ever present in Allah's remembrance. Despite what he himself witnesses of success and abilities, he always returns with it to Allah." So whatever happens to you in your life, wherever you are in your life, always turn your affair back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the thing that we're learning from that encounter in Surah An-Naml. So there are a few other things, other ways for us to understand it in the Quran. The sense of the micro and the macro of space, or even the inverse of it, the micro and the macro space, the small and the big of spaces. So I begin therefore with Surah At-Teen in the Quran. So what's happening here? When Allah says, وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَطُورِ سِينِينَ وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ. Allah says, by the fig and the olive, and Mount Sinai, and this sacred city. And some of us, they say that these are 4 allusions to 4 sacred places. وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونَ. Teen, the fig, like alluding to Damascus. And Zaytun, alluding to Jabal Zaytun, the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. And Turi Sinin, Mount Sinai in Egypt. And then the 4th one, هذا البلد الأمين, this sacred city, meaning Makkatul Mukarramah. So 4 geographical landscapes. But it's interesting that you have 4 mountainous landscapes, heights. Damascus, mountainous. Jabal Qasiyun, mountainous. Jerusalem, mountainous. Mount Sinai, mountain. And Mecca, mountainous. But Allah says in the same surah that man could fall deep in descent, ignominy, like people can fall away from divine favor. Asfal safilin, the lowest, humiliated. So from the point of height that Allah is alluding to, we as people could fall. That could happen. In Surah Shams in the Quran, next surah, you have an outer inner experience. وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا يَغْشَاهَا. وَالشَّمْسِ, Allah says, by the sun when it comes out in its glory, and the moon, and the day, and the night, and by the heavens, and the earth. So you have all these outer cosmic things happening outside of you. Reflections. Sun, the moon, the night, the day, all this stuff happening outside of you. Then it goes down to وَنَفْسِ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا, and the human self, and how the human self is created and formed. فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورُ تَقْوَاهَا, and how the human self could be inspired by depravity and evil and also piety. So you have all these outer big things happening, and then you have the small thing happening in the human self. You're important. Your sense of worth and value, and your transitioning in life. And Allah says, after this, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّى وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Now, successful is the one that purifies himself, his state. And Allah says,